Hello to the pessimistic, optimistic, and everyone in between. My name is Connor Philippi, and welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast. I'd like to apologize real quick. I meant to make this another more high-quality type video, but I got my days mixed up. Yesterday, I thought was supposed to be the day that I was going to be in my office for work, and then today I was supposed to have a half-day work-from-home type thing. Ended up being the opposite. So I wasn't able to shoot a high quality video. I'm just gonna have to shoot this and upload it as is. So next week is when you'll start to see the higher quality videos. I know I got a couple people asking for more of the graphics, like I did with my Vikings prediction. So rest assured, those higher quality graphics and better camera, everything is all going to be coming pretty soon here. But I'm also going to be in the process of moving soon. So take that as you will, but still appreciate you tuning into this one. And we're going to go over our picks here for the NFL season week 2. But first, we have to open up the notebook because it is time to take some accountability for what I got right and wrong in week 1. We'll kind of quickly go over what I predicted and got right. So Eagles 24, Cowboys 20, I got that correct. There wasn't much of a surprise there. Chargers and Chiefs, this is one that I was pleasantly surprised to get wrong. Excuse me. Because the Chargers put up a great showing. Herbert, 318 yards, 3 TDs, excellent performance by him. The Chiefs just seemed really disjointed in this game. Mahomes led the team in rushing yards. It felt like they were really reeling from the loss of Rashee Rice for his suspension. And so they'll have to kind of figure that out as they go. But Chargers 1-0 to start out the season. Should be interesting to see what kind of season they have if Herbert continues to ball out like that. Buccaneers Falcons. This is one that I got correct as well. So I'm 1-1 so far. Bucks I got correct, so 2-1. This is one I expected to be close. It was just kind of one of those situations where the Falcons had opportunities and put themselves in situations to succeed, but just weren't able to capitalize on it. And we had Baker Mayfield put up a great performance. Mayfield, funny enough, also led his team in rushing yards with 39 yards. So this was not a very run-heavy game either, but Mayfield kind of showing that clutch factor, leading his team. Didn't score at all in the fourth quarter until that touchdown, but it ended up being the winning touchdown. And then Koo missing that kick was brutal. Bengals and Browns. Now this is the one I got wrong, but it was my upset of the week pick. So I wasn't picking it because I thought the Browns had a good chance of winning. I just wanted to use that as my upset because with the historic slow starts the Bengals have had, I thought that was a good chance. And it ended up being really close. I almost got that correct, but the Bengals defense actually is able to play pretty well. It was against the Browns, of course, but interesting to see that they were able to at least come up clutch in that regard, and no points scored in the final quarter for either team, and the Bengals come away with that win, so I got that wrong as well. Colts and Dolphins. This is one that I got right, but I was wrong about the way it would go because I thought this would be a toss-up between two teams that didn't have much going for them. The Dolphins looked horrible, but the Colts ended up looking great. Daniel Jones with 272 yards and a touchdown. He just looked like he was in control throughout the game. 33-8 win. Did not see that coming at all, but I did get that one correct. Raiders and Patriots is one that I got wrong. I had the Patriots winning this one. I thought that they would show a little bit more of that, makeup. I said before this game that I thought that they would be more of like that sneaky team. Not a great team, but just a team that's good enough to be a thorn in the sides of the teams that they play. That didn't really show up in this game. The Raiders, despite Ashton Genty having a horrible first game as a rookie, 38 yards. He did get a touchdown, but that's 38 yards on 19 carries. That's 2 yards a carry. That's got to get figured out for the Raiders. But Geno Smith, 362 yards and a touchdown. Was not expecting that. The Raiders win 20-13, and I got another one wrong there. Cardinals and Saints. This is a quick one. I expected this to be a blowout win. The Cardinals didn't play their best football, but thankfully for them, the Saints are the worst team in football this year. And that this game pretty much proved that. Offense looked absolutely horrible. Rattler with 214 yards, no touchdowns. Got to figure that out in some way. Surprisingly, though, Benson was the leading rusher for the Cardinals, which is fun for me, having picked James Conner in the fantasy football draft. Steelers and Jets. This is another one I got right. I was way wrong about how the game would go, and I think most people were. I think most people were surprised that this one was a 34-32 game. I thought we were all expecting a low-scoring affair. But Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdown passes, taking advantage of every opportunity in the red zone. Don't expect Rodgers to throw that often throughout the rest of the year. This seemed like kind of an outlier, but did not expect these two defenses to struggle as much as they did. I expect that to kind of reinforce itself next week, but Steelers do get the win, so that was correct for me. Commanders and Giants, another one I was right about, kind of an easy pick, 21-6. The Commanders' offense looked like it was kind of lethargic to start out the season, and yet they still won by 15. This Giants team is looking horrible. Russell Wilson can't do anything with the football so far this season, and the offense itself completely stalled. So Commanders win that one. Jags Panthers, this is probably my worst take or my second worst take. I'll get to Packers Lions in a second here. But this was a pretty bad take for me. I was expecting the Panthers to be kind of a sneaky team that wouldn't make the playoffs, but would kind of get close, kind of a 7-8 win team. That could still happen, but this week was horrible. Jaguars 26 points on 143 yards from Etienne. Pretty good game there for the Jaguars offense. Titans and Broncos, about how I expected it to go. Low-scoring affair that the Broncos would win. Titans would have their opportunities, but Cam Ward and his offensive line was the real story. Ward didn't play great, but the O-line completely sold him as well. He was running for his life the entire game. Definitely not a good situation to put your rookie quarterback in to start out his career. That's what happens with these teams that draft quarterbacks top 5, is they typically, Jaden Daniels, and there's plenty of other factors that are outliers there, but a lot of times players are thrown into situations where they just can't succeed. 49ers and Seahawks. This is another one I got correct. 17-13 ended up being kind of a low-scoring game. Both teams kind of got off to slow starts offensively. Of course, now Brock Purdy's hurt, and George Kittle got hurt as well. So that's kind of just the 49ers' way of, no matter how good of a team they are, they still find a way to win, but then they get hurt. Seahawks, Sam Darnold was horrible. This was, I'm not saying that he can't get right after this game, but horrible. I think he had a 73 passer rating and 57 or something QBR. So did not play well. The Seahawks team was really bad. And then Lions and Packers. This is probably my worst take of the week. Obviously, I said some pretty bad things about the Packers, saying that they were a 9-10 win team. Still don't think that that's necessarily a crazy take, because I think that things could still happen this season where this was just a game where the Lions were not ready to play. The Lions being a bad team out of the gate is a bigger story than the Packers. The Packers defense was great, but the offensive coordinator loss was a bigger factor than we thought it would be, because the Lions were just completely lost. Texans and Rams. Rams ended up winning this one 14-9. So I got that one correct as well. I was kind of back and forth about this one. Texans offense was horrible. CJ Stroud and this receiving core did not seem to put it together at all throughout the game. And Stafford did just enough to get his team the win in a defensively charged game. Bills and Ravens, game of the year, potentially in week 1. I predicted the Ravens to win this one, so I was wrong about that. But what a game, what a finish. Bills fans leaving early with Josh Allen as your quarterback. Like, what are you doing? You're still down only 2 possessions, and you're about to get the ball back, and then the fumble by Derrick Henry kind of spurred things for the Bills. Josh Allen continues to be the best quarterback in the league for what he did that night. And then Vikings-Bears, I already talked about this one in the Raw reaction, but getting the win, big McCarthy night for the Vikings, showing that he has the intangibles at least to be potentially a good quarterback in this league. Still plenty of time left to go, because that's a tiny sample size for him. But all of that being said, 10-6 was how I did with predictions in week 1, and we will continue to do that tally throughout the season. Starting now into week 2, we have Commanders and Packers. Now, this is an interesting one. People decided that I was completely wrong about the Packers and that they were going to be one of the best teams in the league immediately after that victory versus the Lions. But like I said, I felt like the Packers against the Lions had such a benefit of they had their same offensive coordinator. They had the same pretty much offensive line front behind Jordan Love, and Matthew Golden, obviously a change in that wide receiver room. They mixed up Micah Parsons and got rid of Clark. For the most part, though, this team came in knowing what their identity was right out of the gate. They knew what their play calling was going to be offensively. They knew what they were going to do with the football because it's what they did last year. The Lions, on the other hand, had a completely different coordinator and had no idea what they were doing. So now you're going into a situation versus the Commanders where you're actually going up against another team. They have the same offensive coordinator as last year, Jaden Daniels, same old quarterback, throwing to similar options, obviously adding Debo, but that can only mean better things for this offense. And so now you're in a situation where both teams are kind of on a similar playing field in terms of going into a brand new season with similar pieces, with similar play calling styles, all of that together. And now if the Packers dominate the Commanders, then I'll say, okay, this Packers team is legit. But what they did against the Lions and what their defense did against this Lions offense, I feel like is not as telling for me because it was more the Lions looked horrible than the other way around. But now in this game, I do have the Packers winning because they're at home. I think it's going to be a close one. I see the Commanders and Packers both being on a similar playing field right now. Packers, maybe a win total or two above what I said for now, maybe a 10-11 win team. Commanders kind of went down a bit after their Giants win. Only 21-7. Offense looked kind of rough. So I have them both as kind of being 11-12 win teams in my mind right now, and this game will really tell the story of what I expect them to be the rest of the season. Obviously still in week 2, there's still a lot to see there, but I do have the Packers winning in week 1. Jags and Bengals, I do have the Bengals winning this one. I think that it's kind of a toss-up here with how the Bengals have started off seasons incredibly slow on offense, and they showed that in week 1. This Jags team, put up, what did I just say? 27 points against the Colts. But Lawrence was not much of a factor in that. I think this Bengals defense, hopefully the defensive front at least, can play well enough. Because it's going to come down to Etienne and whether or not he can carve up this Bengals defensive line. But if Joe Burrow can put things together with this offense in week 2 and kind of get things rolling a little bit earlier than usual for this offense, if you force Lawrence to get into a battle between him and Burrow's going to win any day of the week. So I do think the Bengals will win this game. I think the offense will get going, and they'll improve to 2-0 on the season. Giants and Cowboys, I do have the Cowboys winning this one. This is one where you could pick upset of the week just for fun because it's the Cowboys. But the Giants just looked too bad in week 1, and the Cowboys' defensive front did pretty well against the Eagles. So I don't think they have much of a chance here, the Giants anyway. Malik Neighbors looked pretty frustrated with how the offense was looking with the quarterback room. Of course, I made the mistake of drafting Neighbors in fantasy football. I don't know why I did that because I knew of the concerns with the quarterback room, but it is what it is. I have the Cowboys winning in week 1. Lions and Bears, another one that I could potentially go upset, but this Lions team is going to come in angry. They're going to come in feeling like they did not show their true selves in week 1. They have a full week now to work out the knots of the things that they, like the growing pains that came with a brand new offensive coordinator. All of those things, all of those factors are going to come into play here, and I think they're going to turn at least enough of those things around to get a win against a Bears team that offensively put up one good, scripted drive to start out the game against the Vikings, and then just completely did nothing after that. Horrible performance by the Bears in week 1, and I expect it to continue. As good as that defense was, it will make things difficult on the Lions. I don't think the offense, even against this Lions defense, is going to be able to catch up. Rams and Titans. Excuse me. I have the Rams winning this one. I feel like the Titans are going to... I take it back because I said the Saints are the worst team in the NFL. I do think the Titans probably are. Cam Ward is not going to have a good season this year and is probably not going to have much of a chance even to develop in his abilities because he has no time to throw. He's just going to take off the second that he gets the ball because his offensive line can't protect him. So with this Rams defense, the way they played last week, I expect the Rams to win this one. It's going to be another game where Stafford doesn't need to do much in order to get this team the win. Expect Kyren Williams to have more than 66 yards in this game from what I would expect, and the Rams will get this victory. Patriots and Dolphins. This is interesting to me because I feel like the Dolphins are minus 1.5 spreads in this game, but at the same time, this is not just a Dolphins team that played bad and is bad this season. This is a dysfunctional team. This is a team that even when you're putting yourself in positions where the team you're playing isn't as good and you should have a better chance of winning, you still find ways to lose because you're dysfunctional. The Patriots had a rough first week, but they have a solid plan in who their head coach is. They're dedicating their time this season to making this team better, whereas the Dolphins are like, do we even know if McDaniels is our head coach? For those reasons, because I do think this game's kind of a toss-up in terms of the skill of these two teams, I do have the Patriots winning this game because I feel like the locker room's kind of lost. I can't imagine Tyreek Hill feels too great about the way this team is going, and Drake May was not great in week one, but I definitely think he can put some things together this season. I think the Patriots will win in week 2 and improve to 1-1. 49ers and Saints. If they were playing pretty much any other team in the NFL, I would say that other team has a shot because you're going potentially without Brock Purdy. I haven't heard much about a diagnosis about him, but on top of that, you're missing Kittle. Even if they're playing their third-string QB, they're beating the Saints in this game. I don't see any chance that the Saints can beat this 49ers defense in any real way. They put up 13 points last week, and even that felt like a lot because it was almost like a late-game comeback with those 13 points. So I do have the 49ers winning that game. Bills and Jets, this is one that I could have as an upset of the week. There's some teams you have coming in where you're like, man, they have an emotional come-from-behind win that might affect them negatively in the sense that they're kind of still in the past in their own heads about how they won that game last week. That's not going to happen with the Bills. They understand that all they can do is build momentum off of a win, no matter what kind of a win it is. This is a team full of professionals. Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and in my opinion, the best right now. So I do think the Bills will win this one, improve to 2-0. I don't see them losing very much this season. Bills are one of those teams where I have to pick them to win until they lose at this point. Seahawks and Steelers. This will be a really fun and interesting one because obviously we have the revenge game last week of Aaron Rodgers playing against his old team in the Jets. Old team as if he didn't play only 17 games with them and left again. Seahawks and Steelers, which, by the way, I want to say one more thing. The fact that Aaron Rodgers was like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to be a diva, say that I basically own the team, act like I'm this big shot, make the Jets hire all of my, former players and everything to play for me, and then when it doesn't quite go my way because I didn't play the best football as well as the rest of the team, I'm going to leave and say, it felt really good to beat everyone that's a part of that organization. It's those things that make me not like Aaron Rodgers. Say what you want about all the drug stuff and the this and that and him. Him being estranged from his family, I'm not going to get into that because family dynamics can be weird. But the way he treats his past teams as if he owes them nothing, but he is mad at them for what they did or didn't do for him. It's just so petty. It's so childish, and that's what I don't like about him. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers' team will get this win. Metcalf has his revenge game against the Seahawks. I think he'll go pretty crazy in this game. On top of that, with how bad Sam Darnold looked in week 1, you're now heading into a very hostile environment in Pittsburgh against one of the best defenses in the league. I certainly think that game against the Jets is a fluke. This defense is an amazing defense, and they're going to find their way back to those low-scoring games. So I think the Steelers will take that victory. Browns and Ravens, this would be one of the most hilarious upset of the week picks that I could possibly have. That's not going to happen. The Ravens, could beat the brakes off the Browns anyway, but on top of that, they're angry. They're coming into this game feeling like they got embarrassed in front of the entire league and in front of the entire country on Sunday Night Football after winning, thinking they were going to win the game by multiple scores. And I think Henry's going to run angry. He's going to have a great game. and I would expect the Ravens to demolish. I expect this to be kind of one of those 30-13 type game, 31-13, maybe even more for the Ravens offense. Browns defense might be good. The Ravens offense is better, and I think they're going to show that. Broncos and Colts. I do have the Broncos winning this game. Denver is a minus 1.5 favorite. I think they are still a good deal better of a team than the Colts are. Colts putting up a great performance against a team that just put up a really bad performance in week 1. I feel like it was kind of one of those weird things where Daniel Jones is going to have an amazing week. He comes into the next week, and it felt like that happened a lot with the Giants. He'd have some momentum, and he just could never build on that. So I do expect the Broncos to kind of snuff that momentum. Their defense is going to be kind of rough for this Colts offense to overcome. Jonathan Taylor's going to have to run for more than 71 yards, I think, in order to win this game against the Broncos. It isn't a home game, which they have the benefit of that, but I do think the Broncos will take this one and improve to 2-0 on the season. Now here we go with the upset of the week. I do have the Panthers beating the Cardinals in week 2 of the season. I still am higher on the Panthers than most people are. That first game of the season kind of, made me feel a little bit differently, but it's not going to completely take away that feeling I have. I do still think this team has a few pieces. Bryce Young, I think, still has the potential to rise above. This is kind of his last chance to, though, and we'll have to see what happens. But in this game in particular, I think the Cardinals didn't have that impressive of a performance against the Saints. Obviously, sometimes you play down to your opponents and everything. We'll have to see what happens with that. But the running game's going to have to be better. Kyler Murray throwing for 2 touchdowns, but only 163 yards. We'll have to see how he does, because the Cardinals let the Saints back into that game multiple ways. If they do the same thing with this other NFC South team and the Panthers are a good enough team where I don't think they're going to let that slide. If they are in the game for that long, I think they'll pounce ahead and win it. So I do think that is a pretty good pick for at least upset of the week. If I didn't have an upset of the week, would I pick them? Maybe not, but I don't know. We'll have to see there. Eagles at Chiefs. This is going to be a great game, but I do think it's going to be an Eagles win. I think that the Chiefs still have some offensive things to work out. Losing Rashee Rice obviously was a major factor. It just kind of felt like, this running game is not going to work out for them if they are running more with their starting quarterback than with a running game. I think that they just had some things to tweak. On top of that, you now lose Xavier Worthy from colliding with his own player in Travis Kelce. Hollywood Brown put up a great performance, and they're going to need a lot from him this week in order to get this win, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Even at home, I think the Eagles should win this game. Is it possible the Chiefs are 2-0 or 0-2 to start out the season? That would be amazing. But unfortunately, it comes with the expense of the Eagles being 2-0, so it's really a lose-lose or win-lose situation for me. But then we go into Sunday Night Football. I'm not going to get too much into it because I'm going to break it down more specifically in my preview video talking about the Vikings and Falcons on Sunday Night Football. I do have the Vikings winning this game. And the biggest reason I have optimism about this is because so much of the Falcons' offense runs through Bijan Robinson, literally. On the ground, catching the ball out of the flat. Those screen passes are such a big thing for this Falcons team. And I think that the way our D-line played in the second half against DeAndre Swift, that kind of aggressive style, it's going to bite us a couple times because we're going to overcommit a few times and Bijan's going to run and get it, in a dump-off situation for a gain of 40 or 50. That's going to happen at least once in this game. But if we can get Bijan consistently on the ground, the game is over. That's just it. Michael Penix played really well in that first game, but it was the opportunities that the Falcons couldn't quite capitalize on that spelled kind of their doom. And I think that Penix isn't quite good enough of a quarterback yet to not rely on Bijan and the rest of this offense and the defense for that matter to help him out in getting these wins. So if the Vikings can consistently play well on offense, they don't have to put up 30 points, but They can play consistently well, and if this defensive line can just stop Bijan Robinson, don't have to completely stop him, but if they can slow him down enough where he is not the X factor in this game, I think the Vikings get the win. This team is very well built to beat a team like the Falcons. So I do think that'll be a victory for the Vikings. 2 games on Monday Night Football doing that dual ESPN thing. Can I just please say, I really hope ESPN stops with the stupid split screen stuff. Most people that have ESPN probably have ABC too, and the other way around. That's my guess. So please just let us watch each game. If you want to check into games, do a game break and show what's happening, just like they do with CBS or Fox. Don't do the stupid thing where they have one game mini and the other game still shrunk, because that's the way TVs work. It's just annoying. So please don't do that. Now that my rant's over, I do have the Buccaneers winning in the first game. It's a 6 o'clock and then at 9 o'clock. So you're going to be up late if you're watching that Chargers-Raiders game. But I do think the Bucs will win. This is not the defense for CJ Stroud and the Texans to try and reinvent their offense. I think it's going to take one more week for them to do that. The running game was rough, and again, Buccaneers defensive front is really good against the running game. It's not a matchup that works out well for the Texans. I think the Buccaneers will get this win. Spread still has Houston as minus 2.5. I don't really understand that. I know they're going to bounce back. I know their offense isn't going to be like that, like we saw in week 1 all year, but I don't think it's going to be something that can get fixed this week against this defense, especially when you can't establish the running game against them. Chargers and Raiders. I have the Chargers winning this game. I think this is one where it could be kind of a Chargers come out of that big win against the Chiefs in week 1 feeling cocky, feeling good about themselves, just to kind of get humbled by the Raiders. But I cannot see the Raiders going 2-0 to start out the season. Geno Smith played amazingly in that first game. Very, very crazy of a game to win against the Patriots defense in that way. And we're going to have to see the Chargers running game kind of step up a little bit here. Omarion Hampton with 48 yards in that game. Obviously, they spread things around a little bit, got the ball to Harris a little bit too. Bowers is going to be a big thing for the Raiders. If he is hurt for a while, that's going to really affect their team. And because he caught 103 yards of those Geno Smith passes in week 1. The X factor obviously comes down to Justin Herbert. If he can play as well in week 2 as he did in week 1, it's in the bag. So I do have the Chargers winning that one and rounding out the week. So to summarize things, I'll real quick rattle through the winners I have predicted. Packers, Bengals, Cowboys, Lions, Rams, Patriots, 49ers, Bills, Steelers, Ravens, Broncos, Panthers. That's the ups of the week. Eagles, Vikings, Bucks, and Chargers. So let me know in the comments what you think about my predictions. I appreciate everyone watching. Again, I'm hoping to get the better graphics, better production quality up on the screen for you in the coming weeks. But appreciate your patience with that, and can't wait for another week. This is the week where you kind of start to see what to expect from teams, but you're still very excited because there's still plenty of unanswered questions for all of these teams. Plenty of teams are going to bounce back. Plenty of teams are going to fall back down to earth this week, and I'm excited to see how it all shakes out. So thanks so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you agree and disagree with. Always happy to have those conversations, and I'll see you on the flip side.